So what is a continuous integration and deployment? See, for example, developer from the developer machine or laptop, okay. So he checks in the code and pushes that to GitHub. This we know, right? This already we have seen this. GitHub. Already we have seen this one, right? So he pushes the code to GitHub. He pushes the code to GitHub. And what we will do is we will have a Jenkins server. Jenkins server. That will pull the code. That will pull the code from GitHub. Okay. So basically it will compile. It will compile the code. See, what it does is Jenkins will do the build. So what are the steps in the build is it compiles the code. Okay. Runs the unit testing code. See, Jenkins will use Maven, will do the build using Maven. See, already we have seen Maven, already we have seen GitHub, everything. So Jenkins will do the build using Maven, compiles the code, runs the unit test code. How it runs? So what is the unit test code? JUnit. Already we have seen this also. Okay, next, packages the code. See, what Maven does, packages the code, right, to in a jar file. Right? Now, so this is what. So Jenkins server will pull the code from GitHub and it does all. Now, whatever the jar file that is there, okay, what is jar file that is there? So whatever the jar file that is there, so whatever the jar file that is packaged, so the jar file is copied. So jar file is copied to application server. So jar file is copied to application server. Okay, or application server, that is development or test server. Development or test server. See what now testing team. Now testing team will test the application. Now testing team starts testing the application. So testing team starts testing the application. And you find any issues, report issues to development team. Okay. So Find issues to development team. So what will happen now? So testing starts testing the application, and if find any issues, report issues to development team. That means, so what again? So they'll report the issue. So the cycle again repeats. This cycle again repeats. So this cycle keeps on continuing till testing team approves that there are no issues. So that there are no issues. Right? So what will happen now? See, the jar file is moved to production application test server. So there the testing team does the testing. And if any issues are there, again, they'll report back. So the developer will fix the issue, fix the code, and again, he pushes the GitHub. Again, Jenkins will compile the code, builds the jar. It will use Maven actually. It will use Maven. We already seen Maven this. Maven does all this, right? So see, suppose if there is no Jenkins, you have to do manually all that. You have to download the code from GitHub, take the build, everything, and copy this to jar file. You have to do manually, but Jenkins is automating the process. Okay. So Jenkins is automating the process. So Jenkins is automating the process of build cycle. Okay. So otherwise Jenkins actually will do this. And then, so what will happen is now, suppose once testing team approves this, then what we'll do, we'll send this to the UAT server, where user acceptance testing. So jar file is copied to the jar file is copied or deployed to stage server. Okay, where UAT. So business users will perform UAT. Will perform UAT. Right? So once UAT is approved, see again the cycle. Suppose if users find, what is users? Business users. Business users are the owners of the application. Okay, say you are developing a project for a client. The client is the business user. So they will check whether the application developed is working fine or not. Testing team means your own internal testing team. Testing team means your own internal testing, but UAT is the one where the business users will test and they'll confirm that whether there are any issues in the application or not. Suppose in case actually if there are issues in the application, again they'll report, so that this development team, again they fix the code and again pushes the code to GitHub. And again this Jenkins server will using Maven, it compiles the code, runs the unit test, everything, and again copies to UAT server. So this cycle repeats, okay, keeps on continuing. So this cycle keeps on continuing. Keeps on continuing till UAT approves there are no issues. Right? Now, so once after UAT is also approved, then they'll be moving the code to production. So once after UAT approval, after UAT approval, so it is the application is moved to production. The application is moved to production server. So production server deployment. Right. So this is how this. Before we move the code to GitHub, so testing will be done in the server, right? Testing will be done in the server, not in the local machine. See, you will do basic testing, but final testing will be done in the server. So that is the reason. See, if there is no Jenkins, we have to compile the code package to jar and copy that to the server. But Jenkins is automating that process for us. Right? So suppose if there is no Jenkins, assume that there is no Jenkins. So what will happen? It will be like this. Say developer, machine. So from developer, the code is moved to, the code is pushed to GitHub. Pushes the code to GitHub. Right? GitHub. Right? So from here, there will be a human person. So instead of suppose if there is no Jenkins, say human operator. So he has to download a human person. Suppose if there is no Jenkins actually. Human person download code from GitHub. So human person means another, or he's a DevOps person. No Jenkins, DevOps person. He has to download the code from GitHub. Okay. And then he has to trigger the manual build. Trigger manual build. Right? Trigger manual build. And then he copies that build to the dev or test server. He copies or do FTP. Copies or FTP to dev or test server. Right? But what is happening now? Jenkins. But now Jenkins is automating this process. So Jenkins is automating this process. Automating the process of continuous of build and deploy. Okay. So this is about Jenkins. So we'll see practicals on this Jenkins. So what is the practicals is? Say, we'll see Jenkins practicals. So we have a developer machine or laptop. So this will commit the code to GitHub. So this will commit the code to GitHub. So developer machine, he'll commit the code, commit and push the code to GitHub. Okay. So let us assume this is a Spring Boot code. So we'll do practicals. This code is a Spring Boot code. Now I'll set up Jenkins in a virtual machine. I'll set up a Jenkins. Jenkins installed in Ubuntu VM. Ubuntu VM. Okay. So what this will do is, so Jenkins will pull the code. Ubuntu is a Linux VM. So Jenkins will connect to GitHub, pull the code. So first step, will connect to GitHub, download the code or pull the code. So trigger Maven build. Trigger Maven build. Next, generate jar. Generate jar. And take this, copy or deploy the jar. Copy or deploy the jar to the copy or deploy jar to Tomcat server. Okay. So we'll have the application server here. Right. Now from browser, we'll hit the application. From browser, we'll hit the URL for testing the application. Hit the URL for testing the application. So this is Spring Boot, we'll see. So this is a Spring Boot application, okay? Built in Spring Boot. So this is what we are going to see. So Jenkins will connect to the GitHub, pull the code, trigger Maven build, generate jar. Copy or deploy jar to Tomcat server. And from the browser, you hit this. Okay. These are the practicals we are seeing. See, but the thing is, actually, sorry, I got one just now, one urgent call. I have to go outside now. Okay. Actually, I came to know just a few minutes back only. See, tomorrow we'll see these practicals. Tomorrow we'll see these practicals, but I prepared one document actually for Jenkins. I'll share you this document also. See, I prepared a detailed document on Jenkins, like how we'll install Jenkins. I have put screenshot, each and every screenshot here. See, to achieve these practicals, to implement these practicals, I put screenshots of Jenkins, how we'll configure JDK, how we'll configure Maven in Jenkins, how we'll create all this. I prepared a detailed document. So I think tomorrow what I'll do is I will use this document and implement this practicals. I'll use this document and implement these practicals. Okay. So sorry, I wanted to go outside urgently. Emergency call I got actually. Just no problem. I gave introduction to Jenkins. So tomorrow I'll directly work on the practicals. So I'll share you. I'll upload all these documents in the DevOps section. So what I'll do today night, I will upload all once I come back again to my home. So today night, what I'll do is I will upload all the Dockers, the earlier parts, and everything in the Google Classroom section. Okay, I'll upload this Jenkins also so that you can follow this Jenkins and see this. Okay. All right then. Okay. Thank you all. See you tomorrow then. Okay. Tomorrow we'll see you. Thank you all.